If Ifs and Ends, an architecture fable. Once upon a time lived a young man. Let's call him X. So, one day X received a very peculiar letter. See, X was an architect and the letter was a design project commission. The paper came from a distant land. Due to the fact that X was not too busy at the moment, he became deeply intrigued by such an opportunity. He quickly packed his things, bought a ticket, and was on the way. Long was his travel. He flew and drove, he waited and walked, days after days, nights after nights. Now, as he is traveling to his destination, I would like to briefly describe the contents of the letter. The sender of the letter was a group of people, a committee from a local factory which represented this distant land, let's call it L. In the letter, they complained about a ferocious anomaly that was haunting the local population. This anomaly, as they wrote, was a part of their own country, a piece of landscape in a small village. This landscape was changing its appearance from the dawn of time. Villagers were trying to adapt the landscape, tried to use it for their own good, tried to fight it, all useless. So, these elders had their council and decided to hire an architect to calm this anomaly. They have sent thousands of letters, of which one got into X's mailbox. And now he was approaching the factory in order to meet his clients. The factory was locked. And to say that he was disappointed and frustrated by this fact, that is to say nothing. It is only then that he realized he has not met a single person upon arriving in L. He was expecting many architects to crowd the place, but there were none of them. Trying to process everything that happened, he made it to the local inn. Luckily, it was not far, and the innkeeper was present. A nice lady provided him with a room on the second floor of the house, where our hero lied on the bed and had slept. Awakened in the morning by the sound of birds' song, only then he realized what an interesting space he got himself into. The room had a huge arc instead of the window, and the structure of the space blended together a wooden log wall with a massive stone one. Upon deciding to leave the inn, he found out that in less than nothing the sky turned dark gray, and it was raining cats and dogs outside. Being locked down in the inn, he decided to spend some time and bring his room to a better condition. Here is X's description of his dwelling. The old, massive oak door opens up with a creaking sound, and I find myself in an old, eclectic room with low natural light. Main characters are immediately defined by an arc opening at the end of the room and a big stove bed in its center. The wardrobe is to the right, the mirror opposing it on the left. There is also a tiny niche in the wall beneath the mirror due to a crippled brick. There I stack my coins and keys upon arriving. The stove bed allows to both sleep in comfort and warmth, enjoy the view and the sound of fire cracking at the same time. Square bed place allows to sleep in different orientations, with either a view towards mountains or the projector screen where various data can be projected. Nearby the window is an irregular flooring zone with dark terrazzo surface. In this zone, a circular floor niche with a diameter of 1 meter is located. There finds itself a peculiar mounted bath place, which I also discovered upon arrival. It was almost entirely decayed, but I managed to restore it quite successfully. The arc continues as an opening to the right side, creating an irregular embrasure, which I have converted into a chamber greenery bed. My workplace is just below this niche. The table surface is accompanied by shelvings going all the way up to the ceiling. While working on the room refurbishment, X used to stay at the inn's tavern, where he was interacting with local people. They could not help with the elder's search, but showed great interest towards his architecture task, and told him many stories about the place, starting from the ancient legends passed from generation to generation and getting to the latest news about the mysterious site. The rain didn't stop for weeks, keeping him inside the inn. Was it days or weeks or years, but one morning the sky finally became clear. With his curiosity to see the site increasing, he packed his things and was on the way. Long was his travel. He traveled to the east and to the west, uphill and uphill, circled around until he came to the forest. A narrow pathway was leading to the bosoms of the dense green forest, and after some struggling, he stepped inside. As he walked along the trees and bushes, days were replaced by nights. And nights by days. Once he walked up to a fabulous forest alley, a narrow side path with steep slopes to both sides. X was walking through the alley as his heart was filling with comfort and joy. At this passage point, he decided to pause. Our X was not an amateur traveler, so he invented a way of refurbishing this place for his needs, tying up dry sticks to the trees and thus creating furniture. After he settled up, he approached the border of the alley. The clearance in the spot provided him with a magnificent view on the landscape miles and miles away. Hours passed before his eyes glanced at the dried lake right below this forest terrace. As he was looking down, it became crystal clear for him. This must be the place. There was no doubt. It was his site, the piece of land entrusted to him to bring to peace. The site was at peace for now. In other words, it was empty, and our hero decided not to wait before it storms again. He sat at his newly prepared working desk and started his great process of design. He has thoroughly investigated the site, learning it, preparing master plans and sections. As for the first step, he decided to carefully depict all the stories he had heard from local people. Further is listed just a tiny fraction of the chronicle that he has learned. Metamorphosis. The cloud. Ancestors of the villagers in L believed that there was special mystical weather once in many years when the clouds in the valley would get very low, rubbing the roofs of people's heads. This weather, they say, inevitably brought big changes to the world. The legend says that the strange story of this location started when one of these clouds has covered it many centuries ago. After that, a whole sequence of different plots has happened to the site. First metamorphosis appeared after the cloud. Local mushroom picker Thomas found an entirely new landscape on the site. It was a fabulous hill entirely covered with flowers. Then came a giant forest. In no time, centuries-old trees appeared densely on the site. After a while, I think it was spring, when the water streams were going down from mountains. Imagine that! They stopped upon approaching the site and filled a whole cube with vivid contents of water, stones and dirt. The summer came, the water drained away, but stones. Oh, The stones were floating in the plain air. To the fear of all local parents, apparently children chose this anomaly as a playground and jumped from stones to stones. Well, Stone Era came to an end when, after a chamber earthquake, they all fell down in order that suspiciously reminded a ruined castle. And, well, the castle did appear. It just popped out of nowhere when locals already started forgetting about this whole occasion. The fortress perished only to let space for a wooden church. A traveling Solomon merchant swore he saw churches of the same type in northern Russia, on the sides of Dwina River. The church mysteriously disappeared during another Fastnacht celebration. Instead, a great Funkenfeuer mysteriously appeared on the site. Oh well, how do I even start here? Simply imagine the fear of local folks when one day they woke up to observe an enormous head of a man standing in the middle of their country. It took them time, but after a while they ventured to explore it, to learn that it was a giant building with many different spaces inside. There were luxury living rooms, exhibition halls, whole houses, and even a temple. Once they started to render it habitable, and even connected a cableway to its eye, the head was gone. So many stories were more. It is just exhausting to even tell. A small farmer house once was found there, and when locals thought that just a normal person settled in, the building started growing like a mushroom and was a giant castle not before long. A plain wall with a balcony and a cobblestone square in front of it where an obscure persona tried to persuade locals in some vague enterprises. Well, once the site was even a bunker. A local guy, I think Jochen, once angrily took his stuff and disappeared in the underground bunker. Some say it's he who became the underground king. Silly, I say. A car factory so popular, everyone bought a vehicle there. A car parking, everyone parked their cars once they soon broke, never to be fixed again. A local airport connected to all the hottest tourist spots. Somehow, not a single soul was concerned about its vertical runways. An infinite skyscraper. A mall. Some say it has just slipped down by the terrain during the stream season and is still around here. An amusement park. A big place of attraction for kids and their parents. Project claimed to be bad, horrible even. A project claimed to be good, an excellent one. A giant cube of waste. When all the locals except the laziest ones started using the site as a dumpster, they say water washed out everything except plastic, and so becoming light, the cube sailed away. A levitating platform. It provided a very nice shade for all those enjoying their cold one in the middle of nowhere. A dome construction, which frankly everyone enjoyed a lot. It had a round scene inside, and it held the famous Saturday dances there. A shipyard, as they called it. Not many understood the point of this building, but those who did eventually became enlightened. Soon after this last event, the elders held the council and summoned our hero. But now the site was empty, apparently expecting the new metamorphosis to come. And now here he was, sitting at his desk and watching the site in order to tame it, to bring it to peace, and with it, local people. What a powerful force, he thought. A unique anomaly, so rich and beautiful. How dare I design a building on top of it? How dare I try giving orders to something of such unnatural forces? And then the idea struck as a lightning in his head. He decided that this place is so forceful and locals fail battling it for years, then maybe it should not be fought in the first place, he thought. What if this place was a landmark, not an enemy? What if local people would be proud of such an anomaly and not fear of it? He started producing sketch after sketch, after finally bringing up the idea of the scaffolding. The idea was simple. Instead of constructing anything inside the square, he proposed to build a surrounding wall as the simplest scaffolding structure, the ones every building has when being erected. Such a symbol would declare the permanent changing state of the landscape and yet allow local people and tourists to enjoy the view of the various upcoming metamorphoses from different heights and angles. Once he finished the drawings, he ran down to the village where he hired many local people to help him with the construction. The project was not very complex, and soon enough the building was done. It looked gracefully. Transparent, light construction was rising up to the height of the imaginary cube. X was very happy with his solution, and with the fact that local people can finally live in peace with the place, benefiting from it rather than suffering. Satisfied and tired, he walked up to his forest office to overview the construction site. Clouds were lazily moving on the evening sky. X slowly approached the terrace and sat at the wooden bench. He looked down to the site, which, of course, was empty. Birds were chirping around before their bedtime, wind was gently rustling the trees, and an orange fox was running down the rocky plateau, jumping over small water streams, the remains of recent rains. This story, this architecture fable, was brought to you, was designed, drawn and voiced by Ivan Skibnevsky, the student of the University of Liechtenstein. This project is the result of summer semester 2020, the studio Landscape of Imagination by Professor Vera Kaps and Urs Egg. The semester I called My Shelf. I have called the work of this semester so because it has started from an idea to create a useful, multifunctional physical shelf and turned eventually into a metaphysical one, a shelf with a rich collection of thoughts, ideas and projects. But as our studio is all about personal experience and my diary is too broad to express it in one presentation, I decided to rather entertain you with a fable of sort, to gently fuse from the tension of the final reviews to a relaxing Friday evening. Thank you very much for your attention, for listening, and see you next time.